Hi, I'm Suzanne Barron, founder of Christ the True Light. This is the first video that I'm putting on to my new YouTube channel. This is actually my third YouTube channel. I've had fails because YouTube will kick me off. They say my content is not community guidelines appropriate. So I'm just going to continue to preach on the Bible and kind of stick to the Bible and try to drive you to my website to where you can see the other things that YouTube's not allowing me to have on there, because I do get a lot of views on YouTube and I feel like YouTube is very helpful. So again, this is my first video for this channel, and I decided to start in Genesis for this one. I've lost a lot of videos. I'm reading out of the Wycliffe version, WYC translation. It was translated in 1382 by John Wycliffe. And there's a lot of things in this Bible, this translation, that our newer translations say differently. There's alterations in it. And there's always different alterations between the translations, but there's very big alterations that really change the way we view Scripture. For instance, millions of Christians, millions of churches, not millions, it's 45,000 denominations, but out of those denominations, a lot of them will state that animals do not have souls. This is one example, because I'm in Genesis 1. That animals do not have souls. But John Wycliffe version, translated in 1382, the very first English translation, clearly states that the animals have souls, living souls, that God created the living souls inside of the animals. And that's in chapter 1, verse, says it in 21, and God made out of naught great whales and each living soul. This, a lot of stuff over here. NIV, Bible, New English Translation, does not say souls. It says, Genesis 1 says, verse 21, so God created the great creatures of the sea and every living thing. It'll say soul for the human, but it says living thing for the animals, where Wycliffe says living souls. And as we go through this, I will point out a lot of different things that give us different understandings. God created life, and in Him alone, He is life. He created life. That's in verse 2 as well, chapter 1. He is the life force that sustains our energetic, breathing, heart pumping, eyes viewing life. That He is what gives us life. Christ is. And He's inside everything that has life. The trees, the animals. The trees breathe oxygen. Fish breathe oxygen. Everything breathes oxygen. Everything. This entire planet is made with oxygen. So that's important. I mean, it's very important. But what I really want to talk about is the creation of the male and the female in chapter 1. So we're going to get there. But first, before I get there, I want to just define what I meant by verse 2, where it says, in the beginning, God made out of naught the heavens and the earth. Forsooth, the earth was idle and void, and darkness were on the face of the earth, and the Spirit of the Lord, or the Spirit of God, was borne upon the waters. In the creation of earth alone, the Spirit was born. NIV will say it hovered over the water. This says that it was born, B-O-R-N-E, born. You take two things and you put it together and something is born. There's a scientific word for that. I discuss this better through blogs, because a lot of times I know this fact, but I don't know how to say it. I don't have that scientific language, so I copy and paste it, researching. You take this electrical device and this thing over here, and you put them together, and then now something's been born. So that's what's happened here. This this chaotic darkness, just gases and stuff like that, and the earth was idle and void, the darknesses were on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of the Lord, or the Spirit of God, was born upon the waters, born up on the waters. So he was born. All right. And then it goes on to talk about the creation of all the animals, the plants, and the sun, the moon, and we're going to skip all of that stuff. But in verse 27, it says, "And God made out of naught man to, or in his image and likeness." God made out of naught a man to, or in the image of God. God made out of naught them, male and female. Now, in chapter 2, we see Adam alone in the garden, and God saying, "You need a helper. Let me make you a helper." And so he puts him to sleep, and he takes the rib, and he creates a woman out of the rib. That happens in chapter 2, right? But in chapter 1, we see a female created here with the male. He's created with the male. And then later on, we see him alone and needing a female. Now, I get a lot of rebukes from the Christian society, okay, when talking about scripture. All right. I see things that are a little differently than what Christian denominations teach. All right. There's a lot of speculation on this. But what I see is this. I take my phone and I go through blueletterbible.org, and I pull up a Strong's Concordances, and I look at this word female in chapter 1, and I also look at the woman being created in chapter 2, and I look them up through Strong's Concordance. And what I find is that in chapter 1, it's a young female, and in chapter 2, it's a full-grown woman. Now, a lot of other studies will divert you to say that Lilith, Adam had 2 wives, and that Lilith come along. And I don't really know all of the logistics on that completely. I have studied it once, but I don't believe that this woman in chapter 1 and the woman in chapter 2 are 2 separate women. I believe that it's the same woman at 2 different times. Not being created twice, but he brings the woman back to him. Now, what we have to understand is, let me get a number. Okay, it's 2,500 to 3,000 years from the time of creation. That's their study. That's what studies will say. Christians believe this, that there's 2,500 to 3,000 years between the time that Genesis took place and the time that Moses was even around. So about 25 to 3,000 years of undocumented history before Moses even wrote this down. So these were stories. I believe the Bible to be inspired by God, 100% inspired. Here's that word, inspired, meaning that there's things that as humans we can't possibly fully get right or completely understand. And that's why studying is important. Now, a Christian would rebuke that I even said that. But I believe the Bible to be truly inspired by God. I believe that. And for some reason, God wanted Moses to document this so we would know something. But you have to understand, there's things we must understand. When I study my schizophrenia and mental health, pull my science, and science will actually confirm the things that I say, and then I'll pull the scripture to kind of blend them together, right? And so it helps me lay a foundation of substantial evidence to confirm that schizophrenia is the gift of prophecy. I can prove this, but I can't do it with just scripture, and I can't do it with just science. I have to use both of them. So science is real. Science is very much true. It helps us to understand things. But see, Moses didn't have science back then. He didn't have this kind of studied science that we have today that talks about evolution and the fact that we come from monkeys. Science confirms it. Science proves that. So what am I saying? I'm saying we probably did come from monkeys, that we evolved somehow. And it also takes place in the mind. Evolution takes place in the mind. And I do my studies, and I have documents and blogs on this. All right. So Moses would not have even known that. For 3,000 years, he wouldn't have known if he came from a monkey or not. He just wouldn't have known that. Our world today says that we do. And this science actually diverts a lot of people that says, well, science says that, then the Bible can't be true, because the Bible's saying that we came from the dust of the ground. All things came from the dust of the ground. This is true. But we still evolved. I believe that. I believe that. So when it says made out of naught, and then it says in verse 20, it says, also God said, the waters bring forth reptiles. So the waters created reptiles, but then we were created from the slime of the earth. There's water in the earth. It's confusing, okay? My beliefs can be a little confusing, but I dig deep to look into the spiritual message of this stuff. I'm not saying that Moses was wrong. I'm saying he wouldn't have known that. He just wouldn't have known it. And he gave his best recollection of the story that was passed down to him for 3,000 years. And we have this. That's what I'm saying. All right. Now, I don't want to talk about the image and likeness. I do that quite often, although I've lost all those videos. But image and likeness is in my blogs a lot, where it says image and likeness. Image, blue Strong's Concordance, image says that it's a heathen god, tumors of mice, it's bad. And then likeness is equated to a chief character. Google this yourself, Strong's Concordance. The word likeness is equated to like a chiefly character, image of like father and son. She, the female, is a female word. It's a feminine noun, is opposed. And I talk about how we call Earth Mother Nature. All right, it's characteristics, because God cannot be neither male nor female. He lives in all of us, in both males and females, doesn't he? He does. It's characteristics that I look at when I look at the words likeness and image and likeness. But chapter 1, verse 27 says, and God made out of naught them. He made them right here in chapter 1, male and female. Hold on. Now, when I say what I'm about to say, I want you to not just discredit me and turn me off and say, oh, she's teaching false doctrine, because I need you to understand there are 45,000 doctrines out there. There are 45,000 doctrines out there. Different doctrines. You can Google that. It's a statistical number. And so they all preach a different doctrine. So whose doctrine is the truth? I mean, it's important for us to know that. Know that that number is out there. So just listen to me, because you might not find this accurate, but pretty soon something I'm going to say, you're going to go, wow, I never knew that about the Bible. A lot of times people don't even pull a Strong's Concordance to just read it. So a Strong's Concordance, for those who don't know, is a book, okay? And they actually, when I did the study for lexicon, Strong's Concordance is like a Brown's and the lexicon. I don't really know exactly what King James Version is looking at, but the lexicon, their words were pulled from the earliest translations. The words that they were using to define these words in here were pulled from earlier translations. So that helps to know that. But what a Strong's Concordance is it takes this word female and it gives it a number. And the number is 85347. And what it does is it'll take that word, and it's what's etymology. Etymology, it's a field of study. Etymology, like psychology, anthropology. Etymology is a field of study. It's the study of words, and it roots it back to its original Greek form and what it meant back then and how it was used back then. Very similar to how the Apocrypha, if you do your etymology on the word Apocrypha, most Christians say the Apocrypha means unauthentic. But if you study it and you actually look at that word and go all the way back, in the Greek form, it meant hidden secret thing. And it wasn't until it entered into the 16th century, when it entered into the English vocabulary in the 16th century, did the word change to mean unauthentic. Before 16th century, the word meant hidden secret things. And this book is apocryphal. John Wycliffe is considered to be an apocryphal writer, and he wrote his translations way before the 16th century. So apocrypha to him was hidden secret things. To us now, we're confused. We see that word apocrypha and we assume it's unauthentic because that's what our English definition is. But the Greek definition is not. And it didn't enter English till the 16th century. This is common logic. It holds its original meaning, hidden secret things. Now, the word female is H5347. So I'm on a Strong's Concordance. It's a lexicon, okay? This lexicon, that's good to know. I'm going to go back and show you. See it in red? And what it means is it's hard to read them. Female, woman, maid. It comes from the word F or H5344. Say that right. Okay, and that is feminine noun. Let me get the chapter 2 verse. Am I going? Yeah, I needed you to see that part where it says, make sure you see this. I want you to see this. H5347. It is female, female child. So of a young age, female child. Now let me find chapter 2. The helper stuff starts in verse 18. Not good that a man be alone. It's chapter 2, verse 22. It said, and the Lord builded the rib which he had taken from Adam into a woman and brought her to Adam. Now this goes back to Moses not knowing science. Not knowing science. Like science existing and how science works. What I see is this: twin babies inside of a wound. Now granted, there wasn't a mother for them, right? But there had to have been. Okay, if we evolved, then there had to have been. But that originally, how humans would have been made, even monkeys, the first dog, the first cat, you have a pair. Every pair, all the animals were paired up, one male, one female. They split an atom that split in two and created for the waters created the reptiles. Well, the reptile had to have a female in order to reproduce. And so this would have happened with all things that were created. And I see this with like twin babies. Okay, you have one egg that splits. And this would be an identical twin. Male and female. And it does say that there are cases where one twin can be assigned male and the other female. It happens. Now, again, Moses wouldn't have known that. In the Bible, when they had twins, they didn't know what caused a twin, how that exactly works. I mean, we know this now. They didn't have that knowledge to document those things down. And we have to, my pastor told me, stop looking into outside sources to explain scripture. I think that's exactly what we should be doing. We should be doing that. I mean, you had the twins in the Bible. Jacob and Esau. I knew it was Esau, but I couldn't remember. Jacob and Esau. Okay, and it doesn't tell you how the twins are created. just that they were twins. They're pregnant one day, and all of a sudden, here are you giving birth, and 2 babies are popping out. You didn't know that. You didn't know you were carrying 2 babies the whole time. Didn't have that knowledge that we do. That's what I'm trying to say. So let me pull the Strong's on this chapter 2 woman. The number is not the same. The female, the number is totally different. It's a different number. H802. H802. I'm gonna click it. Go back. See where it's red? All right. It says a woman, adulteress, adultery, every female, many, none, one, together, a wife, a woman. So this is an elderly, not elderly, but of age to be a woman, of a wife. While the first female was of age to be of a child, this second woman is of age to be of a wife. And that's what you see them pairing up together. You see them pairing up together, a helper. Now, how did they depart and split up? I speculate on that. I speculate there it could have been that she took off and then came back because they were young and possibly alone. And okay, there's one person out there that's like me. She probably went back to him, but it says that God brought her to the woman, that rib from the same Adam. They split. But God brought her back. Now, if she took off and she saw, oh, I'm so alone in the woods, let me go back to find that man, how would that be God bringing her back? It would still be God bringing her back to him because God has that kind of control, that stuff that we can't see. Our thoughts are not really our own. Take each thought captive, make it obey Christ. Have a mind of God. Your thoughts are like God. And God can drive and maneuver those things. He needed her to go back, so she thought in her mind, let me go. Let me go back. But that would have been still God driving her back to him. It's all a lot of speculation. That's really all we can do with the story of the creation is speculating. That's why there's so many different speculations out there of exactly what happened. We'll never know. There's no way for any human being to know the truth on that. So we should not discredit what somebody is saying and just be like you're teaching a false doctrine. You yourself don't even know. There's no way for us to know that. This was written 3,000 years after it took place. There's no way for us to know. Okay, as you can see, I talk about things that people are not talking about. Please continue to follow. I'm going to try a different approach and not lose this YouTube channel. Thank you.